Question 1. What is your definition of leadership?
Leadership is the ability, hold on. Leadership is the ability to get people to go where we need them to go without making them do it, while creating other leaders in the process.
Question 2. Who are a few leaders that have influenced you personally?
Number one is Tom Ryan. He's my head men's basketball coach at Eckerd College. He was probably the most influential leader I've had. Then my high school coach, Travis Jones, was another dynamic leader. Also, Dan D'Antoni, the current coach that I work with, he's another leader. And then lastly, my father would be another one of the leaders that have influenced my life. I think something that they all have in common is this aptitude to become a servant leader, and that's the main thing that they do is they make sure everybody else is taken care of first. They always think, how can I serve my son? How can I serve my players? How can I serve these people as opposed to what can they do for me? And it's that attitude that makes them people that I want to follow, and it's that attitude that make great leaders want to be followed.
Question 3. What are a few characteristics you feel all leaders need to have?
Selflessness would be one. When you're selfless, it goes down to that concept of servanthood. I think extremely high character. I think that leadership is more of who you are, and it's an all-the-time thing. I don't think that it's something that you do. I think leadership is who you are. And, if you don't have that character, then there's no way for you to be a true leader. I think communication skills are another humongous one that leaders must have. I think that's the one that's oftentimes underlooked because, all great leaders, they have the ability to communicate. And a lot of times they're captivating with their speaking, and a lot of times the way that they listen is another form of communication. That is something I think that's undervalued. I think four is the ability to become trustworthy. And I think that, with the first three characteristics, that's how you become trustworthy, by doing those three things, by being selfless, by having high character, and by speaking well and listening. I think that helps create the fourth aspect, which is trust. And the last one is boldness. Great leaders always make bold decisions. They're not scared to hurt people's feelings when they have to be hurt. They're not scared to, keep it real. And I think boldness and honesty can go hand in hand because when you're bold, a lot of times that requires you to be honest. And when you're honest, that's not always what people want to hear. But leaders tell people what they need to know and not what they want to hear. And I think that's a quality that all the great leaders have.
Question 4. Do you think anyone can be a leader, or do you feel certain people are born with certain traits that enable them to become a leader?
This is actually something that came up in my leadership class that I actually taught this last semester. But I think that anybody has the capabilities of becoming a leader, but I do feel that there are some people who are just born natural leaders. I feel that there are character skills and character traits that you can learn to help you become a better leader, but I feel like there are also people who are just born leaders. It's just who they are. Like, they have that, what we call that it factor. You think of great leaders, like I feel like Barack Obama has that it factor. I feel like Adolf Hitler definitely had that it factor. It might have been what we wanted, but, he was able to think about how much of a great leader he was. He was able to get an entire nation to believe that killing another group of people is what we should be doing. That is very captivating, and that's something that you're born with. Those skills and that personality, a lot of times you're born with. So I think the ball goes both ways. I think some of that stuff you're born with, and you learn a lot as you grow up. And I think some people, you're not born with it, but by watching Coach Ryan, or being lectured and mentored by a Travis Jones, or being, coached with a Dan D'Antoni, these things allow you to learn how to have certain character traits that can take you to the next level and make you a great leader.
Question 5. What motivates you as a leader?
I mean, I've always prided myself on being a selfless leader, and I always, look and think others first. So I think that, my leadership and the way that I lead is based off of others' feelings, and I think that that's selfish for me to think like that. And I think that what drives me is seeing other people happy. And I mean, and it's crazy to think about this, TJ, because when I was growing up, and I was getting interviewed when I was in high school, I was the captain of the team my sophomore year. When I was getting interviewed, then I said the same exact thing. Then when I got interviewed in college, I said the same exact things. You say these things, and you don't think about it, and it doesn't register with you until you're 24 years old and you're a college basketball coach, and you realize, man, I've been saying these whole things my whole life, so it really is true. I really am destined to be a leader, and this selflessness that I have is what I think is drives me. Seeing other people get better is what drives me.
Question 6. Do you feel there can be more than one leader in any one setting at the same time? Why or why not?
I absolutely think there can be more than one leader because, you look at teams, you look at coaching staffs, you look at organizations, there's leaders, there's hundreds and thousands of leaders, You look at an organization, everybody has a different role as a leader, right? There's some people whose role is to lead by example. There are some people whose role is to be a vocal leader. There are some people whose role is to be an emotional leader. So there's definitely opportunity and room for other leaders to be, established and for other leaders to coexist. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that, the greatest of great leaders, they're not power wielders. They don't want all the power. They don't want to make all the decisions. Great leaders empower their people. They want to know what everybody thinks, and then we'll make a decision, and then I'll make a final decision. But I won't make that decision without consulting with everybody else, unless it's like a super humongous big decision that only the head coach or somebody that's at the top of the organization can create or make. But I do think that other leaders can coexist solely for the fact that if you're a true leader, you understand the importance of listening and you understand the importance of not wielding your power to get what you want, but leveraging the strengths of everyone, including the other leaders, and using that as a think tank in a situation to get more and the optimal information and the optimal, results possible. Because ultimately, that's all that matters.
Well then, do you feel there needs to be one leader in charge of all the other leaders, or do you feel they can all be on a level playing field?
I think that there does need to be, somebody who ultimately makes a final decision, because there's a lot of different opinions and different ways of thinking, and there needs to be one person, in my opinion, who can, say, okay, well, we all had great ideas, but this is what we're going to go with. I think that that's important. I do think that's important. Otherwise, you'll get everybody wanting to do it their way, and sometimes people will concede, but sometimes they won't. And it's important to understand that, that one leader is not, he's more like, let's see, how can I explain this? He's more like, not a boss. He's more just like a final decision maker. And that leader isn't the one he's not the one. All he does is conduct the meeting and make sure everybody is going well and see what everybody thinks. And then at the end of the day, he says, yes, we'll go with this. No, we won't go with this. Yes, I do think that's important, because then you just find yourself going in circles.
Mm-hmm. Question 7. Who do you feel are the top few leaders in your position right now? For you, that would mean head men basketball coaches in college.
I think John Calipari, I think Mike Krzyzewski, I think Dan D'Antoni, I think Billy Donovan, I think Bill Self, I think all these people, and I know these dudes, Danny Manning, I know all of these dudes, well, not all of them, I know a lot of these guys on a personal level, so I know that they are selfless leaders. I know that the way that they lead, and I know and I understand why they do what they do, and I understand why they have their success. Because they run their programs with so much class, and they run their programs not thinking about the best they can be or the best they can have. They think about what's best for the kids. And they think about, how can I make these kids understand that it's more important than basketball, that there are better things in life, and that they need to give their best all the time. That, in my opinion, is why those leaders experience the most success. because they use the bigger picture. And they're able to get their people to relate, or not relate. They're willing to get their people to understand and go towards a common goal, which goes back to my definition of what great leadership is getting people to do what you want them to do without making them do it, while creating other leaders in the process. So they're getting these kids to get up at 6 in the morning and work out hard, and getting them to dive on the floor, which isn't necessarily seen as cool, and getting them to take charges and all that stuff, not because they want to do it, but because you've influenced them and you've shaped it and you've created such a culture that it means something to them to do it. And when you do that, then you create other leaders in the process. So now I got other leaders who are going to be promoting the same message that I'm promoting, and it's the trickle-down effect. And then on a larger scale, I've created a leader on the court, and that definitely translates into a leader in the world. And now you've got one more leader out there doing the right thing. So that's why I use that definition to describe what leadership